How would you like to always hit it pin high for every chip and pitch you hit around the green? Hey, my name is Eric Kaplan, and the one most common thing that I work on with my tour students is how to perfectly calibrate their chips and pitches from every distance around the green. So far what we've talked about is the real differences between chipping and pitching. What we've said is this: a chip is nothing more than a rotation of my scapula back and around my spine, which would look like that. Where a pitch is certainly a shot that goes higher, further, and has more spin. That occurs not because I'm trying to hit it harder or add extra wrist hinge, but rather as a symptom of now letting my lower body rotate. And this same rotation on the way back, and the rotation of my upper body on the way through, will produce a shot that goes a little bit higher, further, and with more spin. So now that we have these basic shot shapes in our arsenal, let's talk about how to better control distance. Because in the past, I've heard to control distance around the green, you want to bring it back to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, etc. Now the issue I have with this is that what's bringing the club back to 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock? Is it my hands bringing it back? Is it my lower body? What's going on? Which, of course, why in Axis Golf it's so important to isolate moving parts and say that the only thing happening in your backswing, whether it be a chip, a pitch, a bunker shot, or even your full swing, the swing is started through scapular glide. That's why that little bit of shoulder engagement is so important, to turn on muscles that allow for rotation to occur. So what's neat about the shoulder blades or the scapula, they come with their own what I call restriction points. There's certainly a range of motion the shoulder blades can work around your spine that will be a consistent spot without anything else moving. So what I mean by that, there's a maximum pivot point, if you will, by which your shoulder blades can rotate back without anything else moving. This is going to be a consistent spot that we can utilize to our advantage to control distance around the green. So again, with my guys on tour that I work with, I'll grab a handful of wedges, starting off with our lob wedge, and I'll have them make some full rotations using that restriction point, and I'll start to calibrate how far that chip shot will go. So I know that with my lob wedge, that same full restriction point will go around 12 to 13 yards. So if I want a ball to go further than that and I don't want to hit a pitch, what I certainly can do, I can go from having a lob wedge to a sand wedge. And if I make that same rotation pivoting back to my restriction point, I would certainly expect a ball that would go a little bit further than that without trying to hit it harder. So if I have a about 20 to 22 yard shot, that ball is going to go that distance. If I have a 30-yard shot, I might not want to hit my sand wedge a little bit harder. I'm going to grab my gap wedge, and I'm going to go ahead and make the exact same rotation, and I'd expect the ball to go closer to 28 yards or so without trying to hit the ball any further. And so I can get really good at calibrating how far each of my wedges are going to go, not by virtue of trying to control how harder I'm trying to hit it, but rather only change the club, keeping the rotation itself the same. So if I had a shot that was, let's say, 35 yards away, that's when I go from having my gap wedge to, let's say, my pitching wedge, and I can make the exact same rotation, and I know with confidence that that ball is going to go that distance. And that's where, of course, I know the ball is going to go a little bit further. So instead of me trying to guess, saying, hey, for every shot around the green, let me grab my lob wedge and change how hard I'm trying to hit it, that's relying on feel. And quite frankly, we don't have the time to say, hey, let me go ahead and try to get a sense of feel over how hard I should hit a lob wedge, but rather say, hey, let me keep more things the same, let me keep the rotation the same, let me only change the club. And what's neat about this, the way the ball responds on the green is actually very similar as well, because the speed we're delivering to the back of the ball will be consistent. Now, diving back in, we can get pretty good at calibrating 10, 20, 30, 40 yard shots, using this whole chipping idea with our lob wedge, our sand wedge, our gap wedge, and our pitching wedge. So to kind of recap that understanding, a chip is nothing more than getting into my posture, putting a ball between the palms of my hand, and rotating back and through. If I have any pushing action, I would lose the golf ball. If my hands get active, I would lose the golf ball. If my elbows hinge, I would lose the golf ball. If my shoulders lift, I would lose the golf ball. As long as I'm able to rotate back and through, that's simulating that chipping action. So as we migrate on to a pitch, we can start calibrating our, shots that are a little bit longer, our 25-yard shots, or 35 or 45 or 50-yard shots, using same ideas but reverting the same technique to a pitching style. And so, as I said, what I mean by pitching style is the backswing is the same. whether I'm hitting a chip or a pitch. I'm still rotating the same way. The only difference is what happens in my downswing. Think about it like riding a bike. We have different gears when we ride a bike. We have first gear, second gear, third gear, etc. First gear around the greens is upper body back, upper body through. Second gear around the green, upper body back, the lower body rotates through. And part of the reason as to why a lot of my peers cannot speak this language has to do with posture. The reason why they would instruct you to hinge your wrists on the way back to create more speed through impact is simply because if you're setting up the weight on the balls of your feet when you play golf, the lower body cannot pivot, it cannot clear. Now that you're hinged back over the ankle joint, the body's in a position that would allow for the lower body to rotate. So I'm going to utilize the exact same restriction point, hinging the thighs back, upper body rotates back, lower body rotates through. So if I have, that 22 to 23 yard shot, I know that if I make a pitching action to my restriction point using my lob wedge, the ball is going to go that distance without necessarily having to think about it. Again, if I had a 30 to 35 yard shot, I'd forego grabbing my lob wedge. I move into hitting my sand wedge, and I do the exact same thing, where the rotation stays the same, upper body back, lower body through. And the ball is going to go a little bit higher, a little bit further with a little bit more spin, not because I'm trying to hit it harder, but I've used a pitching technique and changed the club. So yet again, upper body back, lower body through. So what I can do from here, if I want the ball to go a little bit further, let's say I have closer to a 42 yard shot, I'm going to grab my gap wedge. I'm going to do that same exact pitching action, where upper body back, and the lower body rotates through. And there's my 40 yard shot. So again, for those of us who like to go for par 5s and 2, and sometimes stuck with those kind of middle wedge shots and not really sure how to hit them, this is a good way to kind of fill in those gaps in terms of distance control. So upper body back, lower body rotates through. And so if I had that 50 to 55 yard shot, I would not say, hey, let me try to grab my sand wedge or lob wedge to try to hit it harder. What I can certainly do is grab my pitching wedge, upper body back, and the lower body rotates through. So by going ahead and calibrating without trying to change the hands or the feel or any other speed elements, by keeping the rotation the same and only changing the club, I can get pretty good at calibrating how far all my wedges are going to go by keeping the actual rotation the same, by keeping the pitch or chip style the same, not changing the speed, only changing the club. This is going to fill in the gaps from 10 to probably 60 yards away using all your wedges using specific chipping or pitching techniques. Again, there's no easier way to hit the ball, pin high than if you have the right club and the right shot style based on how far you are from the green. So again, what I want you to do next time you're on the golf course is grab 10 golf balls, and I want you to hit 10 chips with your lob wedge. You're going to see the ball is going to be in a very similar spot if your rotation stays the same. I want you to pace those off and get a gauge over how far that's going to go. Collect those balls, do the same thing with your sand, gap, and pitching wedge, and you're going to find that grouping stays pretty consistent. That way you can write out those numbers down, get yourself quote-unquote calibrated, and do the same thing for your pitching action. And so I know this is going to add a lot more depth to your short game arsenal and give you the ability to get up and down from literally the moon, because you have a specific shot that you can hit from different yardages. The same way, if you have 160 yards away, you know that you want to take a full swing 9-iron to get the ball to go that distance. You can do the same thing around the green by having the same sense of calibration. Of all the stuff I work on with the guys on tour, before a tournament, this is probably number one. Again, they don't hit 18 greens in regulation, they miss a few. And for them to know that they have a specific shot at their disposal based on how far they are away from the hole, gives a lot more confidence that they can go ahead and say, hey, I don't have to think about how hard should I hit this, but rather I have a shot in my arsenal that will accomplish this. Give this a shot around the greens. I know it's going to add a lot more depth to what you know how to do and help you save par a whole lot more often when you do happen to miss a green. Give it a shot. I know it's going to help quite a bit.
Hey guys, I hope that tip made a little bit of sense, and if you want to dive even deeper with me, I'm actually traveling to your club to host a special series of putting, short game, bunker play, and even full swing clinics for only 2 days. So if you want to go and sign up, please contact the Pro Shop for more information regarding exactly what time and date this clinic is going to be scheduled. And again, if you do sign up now, I'll actually bring a signed copy of my putting book just for you. And just to kind of give you an idea of what we're going to talk about over the course of these clinics, the putting clinic, we're going to talk about what we call the 4 secret body locks, how we're going to lock out the range of motion of your hands, arms, elbows, and shoulders, force you to make short putts automatic. We're going to talk about some distance control secrets, that way you can better calibrate your speed on 30, 40, 50, 60, even 70-foot putts, whether playing over at Oakmont, where the greens are super fast, or local muni. We're going to talk about green reading secrets that PGA Tour caddies would get fired for not knowing. We're going to talk about what, in fact, is the ideal speed of entry into the hole, as well as that new question, should you leave in the pin or not? And from there, we're going to dive into what is the short game school, which is about wedge play as well as bunker play. In wedge play, we're going to show you why you might have the tendency to either chili dip your chips or blade them over the green. We're going to get rid of that once and for all. We're going to talk about how to hit shots from different lies and conditions, which I think is even more important. Being able to get up and down, whether you're in deep rough, tight lies, against the grain, uphill, downhill, side hill. Because it's not about moving your ball position around. There's actually some nuances of your setup that you want to observe to change your spin and angle of attack and trajectory from the different lies and conditions. We're also going to talk about how to better control your distance from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 yards from the green. That way you're going to hit it pin high every time. And we're also going to talk about the bunker, which is not only the easiest way to get out of the sand, but I know some players are really proficient from soft sand versus firm sand, so we want to give you some different shots in your arsenal that you can utilize that are optimal from soft sand versus firm sand bunkers. And so we're also going to talk about Gary Player's $1 Million Plug Lie Bunker Secret, which is how you go ahead and hit high soft finesse shots from the worst plug lies you've seen. We're going to talk about distance control, because really the mark of any short game magician is the ability to control your distance from the bunker, whether you are 20, 30, 40, even 50 yards away. We're also going to talk about not just greenside bunkers, but the long greenside bunker shot, that 50, 60-yard bunker shot, as well as fairway bunkers. And for those of you who really want to transform your entire game, we're also offering a full swing program where we're going to show you not only how to compress your irons to hit more greens than you ever thought possible, as well as ways to leverage your anatomy that help you crush driver further than probably ever before. We're going to talk about how to fix that one swing flaw you have and develop a single swing thought that you can rely on. That way, regardless how much pressure you're feeling, you'll be able to pull off the shot at hand. We're going to talk about ball striking as well as some common fault fixes. That way, before you go play in your member guest or your member, you won't embarrass yourself at the very least. And so I'm really excited to host these programs for you. I think I'm only going to be at your club for 2 days, and I think we only have 8 seats available per session. So again, go and contact the Pro Shop. I know if you sign up now, I'll be able to bring a signed copy of my putting book just for you. And I can't wait to share some time and really help you transform the game. And I've been doing this, the last 3 years at some of the best courses in the world. So I'm really excited to visit your club and spend some time with you to really help you understand how we're going to find improvement in this game that we love.